This is really hard. So the water over the course of the day has become really cloudy, and the clouds are cloudy also. It's about 30 feet here, and you can only see the bottom when you're right above it. This morning,
surprise!
I jumped in the water to go to find a place to anchor because we moved our boats apart since the wind is switching from the north and there's more fetch.
And the darkness in the sky too.
Yes, I found a giant anchor underneath our boats. It's a luke. It's as long as I am tall, so the lukes are the ones that are straight and they have the little smiley face on them. And so we're thinking of making it into a mooring, aren't we?
Yes, our dream for so long to make a mooring in the Pacific.
So we've been sitting here having lunch, talking through a plan, and now we're going to go do the plan, and you can follow along. Welcome to Hippie Sailing. I'm single-handing my Grin 27 around the world. I started my trip in Maine with a very cold 10-month overhaul of my entire boat. I solo sailed through the Caribbean, the Panama Canal, 41 days alone across the Pacific, and now I'm cruising in French Polynesia, trying to learn French, eating lots of coconuts, playing at Castaway pretty much every day. Aboard the Geck, I have no water maker, fridge, fancy electronics, and my dinghy is a rowboat with a sail rig. If you're interested in seeing what I'm doing in my daily life, check out my Instagram @BoatLizard. I am currently joined in my adventures by Belgian single-hander Jarne Schmidt. He left home 2 years ago on his Belgian-built Spirit 32. We met in Panama about a year and a half ago, and we've been buddy boating ever since. I'm just doing a bunch of dives down to the bottom, swimming around as far as I can, and then popping up, trying to find this anchor. Yesterday I just found this anchor because the water was clear and I jumped in and it was right there. But today it's a little harder. I can't see the bottom from the surface, so I'm doing a bunch of little dives and kind of swimming around in the murk, trying to find the anchor. The anchor round 2 is not going so well. The boat's swinging around a lot and the water's super murky. I've already seen 2 sharks. After about 10 minutes of poking around, I finally found the anchor again, and it's even bigger than I remembered. This thing is crazy. So after looking at it a while underwater, I came up with a plan of taking the chain that we have, the spare chain, and just looping it through that giant shackle you can see there, shackling the chain onto itself, and then leading that bit back up to the boat. So what we're going to do next is tie a line from the anchor itself onto the buoy and get rid of the dinghy anchor, so that this way we have a surefire knowledge of where the anchor is. So I'm bringing this line over. We're going to tie the buoy onto the anchor with this line so we don't lose it again.
And that looks good.
It does, yeah?
Yeah, it looks like
I think so.
2 to 1.
1.5 versus 1. First we're tying the top part of the rope onto the floaty buoy, and then I'm diving down to the anchor with the other end of the line to tie it onto the anchor itself. This will make a really nice connection between the buoy and the anchor so that while we're measuring and cutting the chain, we'll be able to have the anchor marked and find it again, which is sort of half the battle of this entire morning. This is a spare chain that we got from some friends with a almost 50-foot boat. They were replacing their chain and they gave some to Jarne, so it'll be more than enough for our wee boat seas. Is that we're going to cut the chain on shore because it's messy. We have the hacksaw and the box of chain, and now we're measuring out the length of chain that we need to be about 1 to 1.5 with the water depth at the anchor. This local boy lives in one of the houses nearby, and he saw us being totally plagued by mosquitoes, and he came over and built us a brush fire to keep the mozzies away. The fire is dual purpose because there's a wasp nest near where we're working, and what the locals do is they set the wasp nests on fire because these wasps are super nasty, super aggressive, and their bites are horrible. I've already had a couple and they can last up to a week. So he has created this cool little torch out of palm fronds, and he's going to go over and get rid of the wasp nest for us. So it feels really nice to be taken care of and learn a little bit about the culture while we're here. Now you can see he's standing near the wasps and they're all flying out of the nest because of the fire. He's gonna catch their nest on fire, it'll burn down, and then the area is safe for the families that live around the area and all the dogs, pigs, chickens that run around too. We're taking a quick little break to go on a detour through the jungle to see a wild bee's nest. Apparently, there are honeybees that live on these islands. Sometimes they're harvested, their honey is harvested, and sometimes they just hang out by themselves. So we're gonna go check this one out. Whoa!
En français, c'est abbé.
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 Et ça c'est pour
Le miel.
le miel, ouais.
Mais l'autre, c'est...
L'autre, c'est-
Now he's telling us about these wild bees' nests. According to him and his family, there are many of these all over the area, and the honeybees just leave you alone. They basically do their own thing, and you can find their little nests everywhere.
Miel de ça ou
sauvage.
pas? C'est sauvage, it's wild.
Now we're on our way back home. We have a cut chain. We've had a lesson in killing wasps, which are called
Gap.
kap,
Gap.
gap in Polynesian.
Game plan.
This is the surface end. So we have shackle, the swivel, and now we're just tying it to this line just so we're extra sure that we have enough. And then on the bottom, I'm gonna dive down with this. And this shackle fits through this loop of chain, but it also is able to go back through, so I can make a loop underwater and get this connected to the anchor. I shackled the chain on, and the float is there, all happy. It's a really strange weather situation right now, really squally. Day 2, we stopped yesterday because it was starting to get dark and sort of nasty weather. What we've done today is attached the chain onto the anchor, and Yarna had this length of orange float line, which is really nice. So we took some chafe gear and hitched it onto a swivel, and we shackled the swivel onto the chain. Now the chain is floated up from the bottom, and this prevents it from getting snagged on the coral and hurting the coral, also from fouling our gear. The float line is really nice because even if the wind drops, the float line won't sink. Everything is really thoroughly attached with the shackles, and now all I have to do next is just mouse everything, which means putting wire between the pin of the shackle and the shackle itself so the pin can't come undone. Everything looks good underwater, so we're gonna get ready to up Yarna's anchor, move his boat onto it, and do some tests to see how well this thing holds. I don't even think it notices. No, I'll dive down though and see. So we have thoroughly tested the mooring. Yarn has gone in bigger revs than he ever has before. And the beast holds. The last thing that I'm going to do before being done with this mooring is to mouse the 2 shackles that we put on. So I have my mousing wire and my mousing snips here. I'm going to dive down to the bottom one and then do the top one, and then all is good. Cool, all the shackles are wired together, everything looks really awesome, the mooring is holding, and Politer is attached and looking great. Alright, so right now we're in Fakarava, and there's a wind reversal that's coming up in a couple days. So the thing about these atolls is that there isn't a protected harbor that you're anchoring in. You're always anchoring in the lee side of the reef itself. So right now we're here because the prevailing winds are coming from the east, but now the prevailing winds are going to be coming like this, and that's obviously really bad for fetch reasons. And the atoll that all our friends go to from here, you go through the pass here and then you're instantly protected from the west wind. But there is one problem, and that is that the pass is always outgoing current.
and that the Gek has a tiny engine.
Yeah, so the pass usually has 3 knots of outgoing current, and my boat motor's at 3 knots. And I was willing to try it if there was any wind in my sails to help me try to sail against the current, but there's no wind on Thursday. So instead, we're gonna do the really terrible idea of leaving my boat here during a giant blow from the wrong direction. Preparations are being made to leave. We have put my boat on the mooring. Yarna is now tied to me. His dinghy is on my deck. It's the first time I've ever seen Gecko with a rubber dinghy. Rubber dinghy. And we're gonna put my dinghy on Yarna's deck.
Leaking dinghies all the way.
Bye, Gecko! See you in a couple days. Stay on the mooring, please. We're leaving the pass. Really nice to go out a pass in someone else's boat. So much more chill. This is a really flat day though. No wind, no waves. Everything's super easy, super beautiful. Here we go. Ah! Easiest pass ever. I didn't have to do anything. Hello, in my camo. We're coming in the new pass. This one has at least 3 knots of current going against. We're full throttle and just barely making it in. So really glad I didn't bring the Gek because we would not have gone very far. We made it in the pass. There was probably about 4 knots of current. They're on a hammered down.
Hammered down! Whoop whoop!
Yeah, I was the bow queen. It feels really good to not be on the helm going through a pass. Zero stress. Now we are heading to where we're going to anchor to be protected from these northwesterlies. I'm gonna go back on the bow and look for coral heads because there's a lot here. Exhibit A. And then we're gonna drop the hook and have some lunch. Bananas probably, because that's all we're eating these days.
Oh, Holly is assisting me finding a good anchorage. As you can see, she's nowhere to be found. But up in my rigging. That helps a lot for a good lookout because it's really bomb-malicious.
It's really fun to be up here. There's a ton of bommies, and the ones where you can see yellow on them mean they're probably shallow enough to hit, and the ones where you can't see yellow are probably shallow enough not to hit. Anyway, that's what I went on, and it was okay. I wouldn't swear by it, but that's kind of my rule of thumb because you have to go over some of them. There's so many. So that's what I decided I was gonna do, and it worked. Thank God. This is all that's left of the giant stock of bananas that we bought. And Yarna is currently drying them. So these plates are all 4 little pieces. You cut them into bits and then lie them in the sun for 3 days, and then you can wrap them in saran wrap and they stay forever.
Do we have saran wrap?
Nope.
We'll just eat them. Yarn is drying bananas farm up front on the boat. All them plates for drying bananas. Nice. Peace out.
This morning we're moving to the other side of the pass because some of our friends arrived last night and they anchored by the town. They're on a mooring actually. So where they are, there's a ton of coral heads. We're gonna see if we can sneak in next to them somehow. Yarna's upping. I'm just standing on the helm until we're ready to go, and then I'm gonna climb the mast again and help navigate our way through all these coral heads. No one's on the helm. Ghost ship. Hello down there. Hello. And take off. This is Captain Holly coming to you from the control station, flying altitude about 20 feet. Altitude looks good, visibility clear, coral heads plentiful. Let's go. First we're going around this channel marker, and then past the pass and over to where you can see the 2 catamarans.
there.
So we're trying to find a spot to anchor, but there's only enough sand for the anchor and a tiny bit of chain. There's so many bottoms, so we're kind of scouting around. I'm looking and trying to find the biggest sandy patch. Yeah? Yeah, I would drop it now, or you're gonna go over a bommy. We found a good spot to anchor eventually. The good thing is that it's so shallow here, it's probably only about 12 feet deep, so even though there's a lot of coral, it's really easy to float the chain up over it, and if it gets fouled, it'll be super easy to dive on it too, but it should be all good with the floats. Since our friends have been coming here for so long, they wanted to show us a really special part of this atoll, which they call the belly button, and what it is a hole in the outer reef where the water comes in or goes out depending what the tide is doing. It's like an underwater cave with a sucky or a pushy current. So after we were all anchored up, had some lunch, we hopped in the dinghy to go on a little field trip to the belly button. We've arrived at the bottomless pit of hell. Alina's pushing us in one by one as sacrifices to the gods.
Holly, you first.
No. Alina's going in the hole.
Because you told me to.
Despite the small cut on her thumb.
She's a real braver.
Okay, alright, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're alive.
That's really pretty in there, a lot of fish.
Super fun. GoPro ran out of batteries, so didn't get the last of that whole dive and stuff, but it was amazing. Our friends are cool, and it was a really good field trip to get away from my boat. Spoiler alert, nothing bad happened to it. It was still there when we came back on the mooring, but maybe I should have left that as a cliffhanger so you guys come back in 2 weeks. Oops. Thanks for watching this week's video. I put out my videos on YouTube every 2 weeks, and for my patrons, you guys get a snack on the weeks that I don't put out a full-length YouTube video. Thank you so much to all of my patrons for supporting me, making this possible. Really, honestly, could not do it without you guys. You're amazing. If you'd like to become a patron, my Patreon is patreon.com/windhippie, and for one-time donations, I have a PayPal, paypal.me/windhippie. Thank you guys for liking this video and subscribing to my channel. That also gives me a help. I am committed to giving you guys ad-free videos because why shove a bunch of junk in your faces that I know you don't want? What else? Thank you, Tish. I edit these videos on my boat and upload them to Dropbox, and then Tish puts them onto YouTube. Dropbox is one of the only platforms I've found that allows for the intermittent cell connection that I experience here. Thank you guys for all your comments. Love reading them whenever I get a chance to be connected to the internet. It's always a good time. Yeah, so from my food hammock, my disco ball, and my Lucy light, thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next week.